If we would all bow our heads in prayer, I'd like to do that. Lord, you said when there's two or more gathered in your name, you're in our midst. And we invite you in this evening to guide us, to open our ears, open our eyes, help us to unite under one Lord, and that we would glorify you. Help us to speak clearly with understanding and create a family of relationships here of people who have your values and goals in sight. We look to you. We trust you in Christ's name. Amen. Okay, so first of all, I want to not forget this time that we have to pay. We donate to the church here, so that each time some money, so we can use the facility. Tonight we've got a security guy here, and we've got a videotape. This will be videotaped so that others who are not here can see it. We'll put it on the website and other places. So we have some need for donations, so anyone who would like to contribute, that's in the back. And if you want to be a member, it's only $15. Our next meeting is in October 27th. So we're going to try to get as much information across today, and then pump the information onto our website and out on Facebook subsequent to this meeting. And but in the quarterly dinner is going to be October 27th, and we have a surprise speaker who is our deputy or vice chair for the Texas Republican GOP, and her name is Dana Myers. And Joe Murphy here has been coordinating with that office to get her to commit, and she's committed. So it's going to be a really good talk. She, I guess, was at the border briefings and in Austin last week. Very strong husband and knowledgeable about the border. She'll probably have lots of really great things to say on October 27th at the St. Joseph Hall. Okay, so I want to cover a few things about the election information that is essential for you and for the participation, and then we'll get into presentations. Ellen Troxclair is on her way here from Fort Worth. Pete Flores, and she'll be here a little bit after 7. Pete Flores is here with us, drove in from Temple. Pete, where are you? Here he is, right there. And then we're going to have Dana Smith speak over here, and then after that we're going to have Todd, and Todd is on your list here. So our speakers are all set. We're going to have probably Pete go first, so we can let Ellen get her get a drink of water or something. So so then we're going to have some Q&A. I want to have them leave a little bit of Q&A in their talks, but you'll be able to meet with them in the corners of the room after 8:30. We'll try to end by 8:30 of the presentation, but I want you to be able to get right up in their face and find out who they really are. And so after 8:30, we'll have we'll decide then one corner, that corner, that corner, that corner, and we'll split up. So that's where the evening's going to go. All right, so on the election participation bullet, everyone should have one of these by now. If you don't, make sure you get one. So I'm interested in helping people be informed so they can be involved. So the question is, how can you help? Asking yourself, how can I help? And so one thing you can do, the Republican Party has just started their Republican election office, where Kyle Biederman's office has been is 616 West Main, and there'll be a little conference room there. There'll be posters available, and also a office area. And so that is starting up today. And so one thing I want to mention is we need some office volunteers. And where is Tom Schmidt? Tom? Here, Tom's over here, and Tom's one of the precinct chairs, and he's been given the job of organizing the volunteers to be in the office and help people get the information they need and pick up the posters and all that. So in the back, there's a sign-up sheet for the headquarters, and I really appreciate it if you'd think about volunteering there. I also have a sign-up sheet for yard signs. So Mo Saidi, the chairman of the party, has ordered about $500 worth of signs that be in the next couple of days that you can pick up there at the office. And so if you would like to have a sign in your yard, it might help just to know that, and then people can help get them to you. I don't have a block walker sign-up sheet, but I think that's going to be coming a little later, like sometime during the next month. We're trying to get some push cards that you can carry around for block walking. Okay, so the precinct chairs all have the job of getting the vote out in their precinct and knowing who they are. And if you'd like to help your precinct chair, I would really encourage that. And on the back, it looks like a tiny little writing, but on the back is the precincts and their chairs and their contact information. And also, a little bonus, the election day polling address is on there too. So you want to keep this and you'll know where to go. Okay, so please contact your precinct chair to help him out. We're going to be able to register voters through October 11th. Mary Saidi is the point of contact for that. So far, she will be back. She's going on vacation for a couple of days, and she'll be back that week before the 11th. But I hope that we can get more poll watchers trained, registered voter registration, deputy voter registrators signed up. And did you have anything, dear?
Deborah, are you a current? Yes, I am, till December.
Okay. So Deborah Haubecker is up here. If you'd like to help and coordinate with her to find a way to get, like, it was a pretty successful day today with Mary and my Mary back there at Ace Hardware, signing up people to register to vote. And so I hope we can coordinate some other times and get people there. But so Deborah, I'll add your name to this list if that's okay. We'll put it out. Okay. Supporting a candidate is another way you can help, and on the back is this is the list of all the candidates that are on the Republican side. You can see the Gillespie County ballot that's actually in the order of what was released by the election office.
I have a question. So my wife is running for district clerk, but she's not on here.
Jan Davis.
It's not Jan Davis.
It's not Jan Davis.
It's Tara Bora.
Tara Bora. What?
She's running for district clerk.
Jan Davis is a write-in also.
Okay, so we have two.
There's actually
We have three. Okay, so I need to fix that. Okay, yep, thanks. I appreciate that. Okay, so can you write on that and give me your contact information? We'll put that in there. Okay, thanks. The actual ballot, I talked to Lindsay today, and the actual ballot is going to be another couple of weeks before it gets put out there, the sample ballot. So this is kind of interim, and I'm doing my best to get the right names in there. Thank you. So, okay, and then also evaluating candidates is also important. If you don't find it on Ballotpedia or Texas Scorecard, you can also, we have other sources that you can look at as well to evaluate candidates. All right, the other thing I wanted to mention is that there is a group that's forming to get out the vote. It's a part of a committee for the Republican Party. It's kind of separate from our club, but we want to have people join Charlotte Belsick, who's sitting here. Raise your hand. And if anybody would like to join that, get out the vote.
It's more than get out the vote.
Okay.
It's so that we have informed and engaged voters. So it's going to be candidate forms, questionnaires, so it's not just one time.
So,
It's going to be a bunch of stuff at different times. We're just
Okay.
looking for committee members.
so we need participants from our group because that's what part of our goal is, to get you informed. And yeah. So anyone who would like to join our group, should be here. All right. Yeah, I think is that all I was supposed to say, Bruce? I think so. Okay. All right. Well, the next thing we're going to do is start through our invited guests to speak with Pete Flores, and Bruce is going to he's going to introduce him because he knows all this stuff better than I do.
First of all, I'm glad you're here. I wish we had every seat filled. It's an important election. Let me ask this. How many of you think this is one of the most important elections coming up we've had? All right? If you didn't raise your hand, you just got here from another planet just today or something. All right, there's weird stuff going on out there. In this election, we hope to correct some of that. In 2020, I've been doing elections a long time, as working as a precinct chair in another county and election judges. And 2020 was the most exciting election I'd been a part of in a long time. So many parades going by, flags on vehicles. Every ranch had a flag, had signs. It was motivating. I'm not pretty much seeing that right now. And so even though the country is like at the brink of not being our country anymore, there's no parades, no signs out there. And whose job is it to do that? Well, it's us in this room. We've got to get going and get turnout. In a county like this, we are the ones that keep the big blue cities from taking over our state. And all these rural counties that are really red like we are, we have to get every person out there to vote. And it's not going to happen if there's not a little more enthusiasm going on out there. So what do you do to do that? Well, you need signs in your yard. You need to tell people you know who vote the way we do when the election is and why they need to be out there voting. And so, number one, put a sign in your yard. Especially, it's even better if you're in a well-traveled street. Those are the best ones. So along that same lines, we wanted to bring you some candidates tonight so that, it's been a little bit since the primary. Maybe you haven't heard them, and it's time to hear from these people and get the motivation to get out there and get to vote. So first up this evening is going to be our Republican candidate for State Senate District 24, Pete Flores. We had a pretty contested election in the primary, and Pete Flores won that. And so now it's our turn to get on that bandwagon and make sure Pete Flores is our representative in the state Senate. We don't want a state Senate that's not Republican. It's very important that we have the vote going on. So Pete's background, it started off as in the game warden. I don't know how many of you watched that Texas Law show with the game wardens. I've learned so much about game wardens. I learned I had to quit shooting from my car. Wow. That was the number one thing I had to learn. But I love that show. It's so good. So the next best thing, Pete is an Aggie. And being that, the only tough thing about pointing out Aggies, of which I am one, is they're all younger than me now, and that's not supposed to happen. So Pete's an Aggie, but he's younger than me. So rather than take any more of his time, let's welcome up our Republican candidate, Pete Flores.
Thank you very much. So I guess what you're saying is that the deer trophy heads you have in your room, they're all squinting, is what you're saying, from being hunted at night. Yeah, can't do that either. Yeah, can't do that either. But thank you all very much for this opportunity to come and visit with you. And that's basically what I want to do, is just visit with you. I live in Pleasanton, which is a town of just under 10,000. So you say, was this guy not somebody from a rural small town? Well, I am. Weren't we glad to see that rain come? And what a blessing from God. But, I'll just briefly throw it in there. I'll try not to wander back and forth. But my oak trees, I love my oak trees. And they were suffering something fierce. If we hadn't had rain in, 7 months, significant rain. My yard was all grass. There was no grass. It's all sand. And 20% of the mass, I was worried my trees were going to die. Although I knew that a lot of those trees have been around since, the Comanches and the Apaches roamed there south of San Antonio. But then it rained, and they came back to life. And the leaves erupted on every one of them, thank God. The grass burrs came out really fast. That's amazing how fast grass burrs will grow. But I guess one reason I'm saying that is because all of this is about a message of hope and a reminder that even when it seems bleak, like politically or personally or business-wise, that it can and will get better. I believe that. And that was just another reminder in my yard that things can get better and quickly and with patience, with perseverance, with faith, that just believe that it will and hold fast, and things will get better. My background is my daddy was in the Air Force. I'm an Air Force brat. Minot, North Dakota is where I was born. That's why in the wintertime, which is probably why when it gets cold, I feel traumatized. I don't know, maybe they left me outside for an hour or two. But, North Dakota in January is something else. We've traveled all over the world, and he retired in Laredo, so I background on the border. Not only did I grow up on the border, I'm from the border. My family's on the border. I served on the border, went to school. So, in other words, I know about the border all the way through my adult life. Worked my way through A&M because we weren't rich, so I knew how to cowboy. So I cowboyed my way through, literally cowboyed my way through A&M, working for the vet school, and that's how I put myself through school. And then became a game warden. Served 27 years, where I rose through the ranks and became the colonel, game warden. I worked with Buddy, your sheriff, but I was the colonel game warden for Texas, and that's just another example of how the miracle of Texas and America, where someone from the poor side of Laredo can rise up to become the colonel game warden of the state of Texas. But it was there that I learned how to work with the legislature. So I worked with because the colonel has to go work at the legislature and work with the House and work with the Senate, work with the governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. You got to go get a budget and carry out the mission statewide. But it's just another thing of the good Lord setting things up. So you get to a point and you say, well, I was prepared for that. That was preparation. My service as a game where I served in West Texas, worked my way up. That's when I became a senator. I represented West Texas, and I had served in West Texas, so I knew the folks in West Texas. It was preparation. I didn't know it at the time, but it was. So when I retired, there I was for a few. Any of you experienced that when you retire, things get much busier? And time goes faster, too. When you're younger, it's like, you get over, it's a month's gone by. It's amazing. It's kind of sad sometimes, too, but just another reminder not to waste the precious days of our lives. I got into politics because the senator where I was living at the time, very powerful. It was a Democrat district, District 19. His power block was San Antonio. 33% every time, like clockwork. But I was approached by a number of Republican officials and business folks in the area where I lived and said, will you run? Because I get some public speaking here and there. And I guess they liked what I said. So they said, well, let's get Pete to get in there. Pete will do it. Well, I thought about it because, it's the Senate. I never thought about going to the Senate. I worked with the senators. I knew the senators. But to actually go and do a campaign, you need money, you need organization. There's a lot involved, and especially going up against someone like that. But you go through life and you wonder, we've all had that where you say, what if? You make these life decisions, and you say, what if? What if So I said, okay, I'm in. Raised $27,000. Drove old Big Red, the old truck out there, all over the place. Went to rodeos and people I knew in West Texas, but I also had a third of San Antonio, the big city. But then went all the way to New Mexico, the rural, and 364 miles of the border, 2 border towns, understood him. And so he ended up going to prison. Hey, things work that way. But of course, his vacation is being funded by us in the federal penitentiary. But he eventually went to the federal penitentiary for a 12-year term. His name was Carlos Uresti. And he went to a special election. And mind you, this district is 64% Democrat. It's never been Republican since the Civil War. Ever since the Civil War. And there was a field of 9, and yours truly came out on top. We won that special election by 7 points. Basically, we caught him sleeping is what happened. But we took advantage of that, and I served in the Texas Senate in the 86th session, representing Southwest Texas, and a third of San Antonio. So the diversity of representation was there. And we're going to take care of Sanderson as much as I'm going to take care of San Antonio. And I did. I was put on the finance committee by Governor Patrick as a freshman because I had been on the other side of the dais asking for a budget. So I knew how it worked. So I brought that knowledge to this side with the senators so that they could understand someone who had been on that side. So that's why I got on there. It wasn't because I was a favorite boy or something like that. No, it's experience. Being on the finance committee is very important to the district because that's the budget writers. They handle the money. They bring the resources. They make sure that we get what we need to get fairly and that Texas's budget is balanced conservatively and responsibly like it's supposed to be. You know, my budget as a game warden colonel was $60 million, and I spent it down to the penny. But I made sure that every bit of those dollars was spent on the mission that you sent us to do. I wanted the Texas Game Warden Service to be the best in the world because we are. We belong to Texas, and when we say Texas Game Warden, that means something to Texas, and it's a product. So in the Senate, I served on 6 committees. You put me on 6: finance, higher education, public safety, it's health and human services, which was a big one. And I was on redistricting. But I couldn't hold on in the presidential. I lost it by 3 points. I couldn't hold San Antonio. Again, good Lord works in mysterious ways. I believe that. I truly do. While it was a disappointment, it brought me here to be able to have this opportunity to bring that experience to bear for a rural, small-town district like I live in, like I have lived in most of my adult life, and understand, and to be advocate for you. I passed 8 bills as a freshman. I brought in hundreds of millions of dollars to the district, including the reconstruction of Austin State Hospital and San Antonio State Hospital, over $220 million for San Antonio State Hospital. It was medieval. Come on, it was medieval. It shouldn't have been that way. Why did it get that way? I mean, it shouldn't have happened. Foster children programs. There was funding for our colleges and universities. Senate Bill 2, I was a co-author of Senate Bill 2, which kept governments at 3.5 and 2.5%. If you remember that bill, that means if they want to go above that, they've got to ask your permission. I caught a lot of heat from some folks on that, but you know what? We the people are the boss, and if you want to go above that, you have a good reason. And if you need more police and fire department, you need to raise it. Cool, but you're going to ask me, not just do it. House Bill 3, education reform. Was another Senate Bill 12. I was a co-author of that bill, and that bill had to do with the teachers' retirement system. You know, we make a deal with teachers and other employees that work for the state. We keep that deal, is the way I see it. And so the fund was not actuarially sound. Senate Bill 12 made it actuarially sound and allowed for the issuance of the 13th check, which they got again last year because it has to be reauthorized every session. And we'll be looking at that going into the 88th. I will be back on Finance Committee, the Lieutenant Governor has already said, so which is a big deal for us. Who knows what other committees, but that one is important. That's the big one, because that we'll have a seat at the table, at the budget writing table. It's important that you know, we as we move forward into the session, we're going to have, right now the comptroller is estimating about $27 billion surplus to the budget. That's on top of the $13 billion that's in the rainy day fund. So generally, when you don't have enough money, it makes it actually easier. But if you have a lot of money, it makes it much harder, because everybody wants that money. And billions of dollars go by quickly, more than you think. You know, 45% of the state's budget is health and human services. And then another 20% is education. So then you only have in the teens for everything else. In general government's about 6%. So you all know all that? So, but that's what's required to keep the Texas economy the 9th largest in the world. If y'all didn't know that we are the 9th largest standalone economy in the world, we are. And we want to be able, these are all these things contribute to the quality of life of Texas, both here, rural Texas, and urban Texas, Texas as a whole, working together. Make no mistake, my fences are Republican. My record will reflect that. I voted over 3,100 times. 97% of the votes in the Texas Senate in the 86th and 98% in the 87th were bipartisan. There were policy bills, roads, schools, health care. But those, when I was there, the 3% that were partisan, Pete Flores' vote was standing with the brand. I always have. I became my mama, God rest her soul, to her dying day was a Democrat. But Mama believed that they were the Democratic Party of Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy. My brother is named Robert Kenneth Flores. He was named after Robert Kennedy. But to her and to a number of others, that's the Democrat Party, but it's not. She didn't understand why I was going to run as a Republican. But I turned to be a Republican when under Ronald Reagan. And how Ronald Reagan operated is the way I operate as a Republican. You take care of the basics and you move out of the way. Let the Americans and Texans do what we do the best. But we make sure that our quality of life and the basic needs that we need to have to make for a good, prosperous economy, a safe environment exist. Business can flourish. Freedom can flourish. So that's how I operate. I have Republican fences, make no mistake, and my voting record will reflect that no matter what you heard. And it's going to continue to do so into the future. What are my top priorities? You are the top priority. I'm there to represent you. I was present, certified 100% of the time when I was in the 86th. That was tough with 6 committees. I never missed a vote. And you know why? Because if I missed a vote, then that means I wasn't present, which means you weren't present. And I believe that you elect me to be present and to be your voice and to be able to look at both sides of the tortilla and make the right decision based on the information we have available. My record's 100% pro-life, 100%. I got asked the other day by KVU on an interview about they hit me hard. I didn't know if I was being interviewed by the media or the Democrat Party, but it seemed to be they started to hit hard right out there. And one of the first things they asked about was, are you going to support changes to the gun laws in Texas and raise the purchasing price to 21? Are you going to do that? Just like that. And my answer was, no, I will not. Are you going to do the red flag laws? No, I will not. And you know why? I told him why. I said, do you know how many gun laws are already on the books? Are we enforcing what we already have before we make new ones? And our constitutional rights and the right to bear arms and shall not be infringed is sacred. That's why. So let's look at that. They asked about border security, and I'm glad they did. That why do you believe that we should be spending $4 billion right now? When I was in the legislature, I voted for $1 billion, just under $1 billion, and it's worth it. But do you think that should be our role? Maintaining the quality of life and the safety of Texans is our role. And if we have to spend $4 billion because the Biden administration is not, and we're going to maintain our rule of law, then that's what we're going to do. And if it's $4 billion right now, so be it. But we're going to make sure we spend that money wisely, with effect. But in my mind, I'm an old peace officer. And excuse me if I'm going too long, but I can go. But I'm an old peace officer. I'll just put out one on border security. You know, I've worked the border. I have worked in the Rio Grande. I have been in charge of law enforcement operations, small to big. I have voted for it in the legislature. I grew up there. My family's there. I know the culture. You know, and poor Mexico. Poor Mexico. Diego Rivera said, poor Mexico, so far from God, but so close to the United States. That was back in, 1920? So things don't change. However, my family members on the other side are suffering, too. At some point, we'll get our balance back, because our history with Mexico goes back to before the Republic. It's our biggest trading partner. I don't know if you knew that. Mexico is. So the commerce is important. But you can catch those folks till the cows come home. I believe that you need to go after the head of the snake. You have to go after the people that are funding it, the organized crime organizations that are engaged in the human smuggling, and use something like the Federal RICO Act, which is Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations, which was originally formulated to fight the mafia. But any of these types of criminal organizations, their profits were not being hit before RICO. So I think Texas needs to have a RICO Act, don't you think? So that would be one of the first bills that I'm looking at, which would be a huge effect on border security. Because again, we can catch them, they're overwhelming the system, and meanwhile, the transnational criminal organizations and other groups that are engaging in human smuggling and profiting are putting that money in the bank. Or might want to come over here and buy some houses in Fredericksburg or something, who knows. But we're going to say Texas is that if you do that, we catch you, we can prove it, you're not going to have that. You're not going to profit. And that's how you start getting their attention, in my law enforcement experience. So there's a number of other things, but as we move forward into the session, I look forward to working with Ellen and others. And it's a partnership. Remember that it's a partnership. Things have to go to the Senate, then they got to go to the House, and then come to the Senate, and then there's the governor. So that relationship in there is important, to have those relationships without compromising our fences and who we are. Let me just finish with this before I take a couple of questions. Folks, for those of you that voted for me, thank you. For those that didn't, I hope to earn that vote by effective representation. I will be your voice. I need to hear from you. Truly. That's not going to be my office in Austin. It's your office. To carry out what you need, I need to hear from you. So I'm an old game warden. You call and I'll come, and you'll be surprised when I answer my own phone, because I do most of the time. And you'll see me. You'll see me. And that's my record. As we move forward, we got 55 days. We're through with the primaries. We need to ride for the brand. All of us ride for the brand. Because if we don't ride for the brand, up and down the ballot, then you're going to have Beto as our governor. You're going to have a progressive left-wing attorney general from the Valley who basically dislikes police and rule of law. And I mean, truly, that type of government. We may have the majority in the House and the Senate going in, but if we have Beto as governor, he'll veto every bill. He'll block everything. And we can't have that. So, regardless of being, think Governor he did this. No, but it's time to go ride for the brand and vote for Governor Abbott, and vote for Dan Patrick, and vote for Don Buckingham, and vote for the judges on the ballot, vote the local candidates, vote for Pete Flores too while you're at it. But it's important at this point. I'll tell you, having been in a Democrat district, that's one thing that they do very, very well, is that when the primary, and they fight just as much as we do, maybe more, but when the primaries are over, they band together. They do very well. They may not eat supper with each other, but by God, they're going to help each other get elected. Anyway, with that, I'll answer a couple of questions, if I may. Please. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
You mentioned how much extra money the state is taking in.
Yes.
On the one hand, the state legislature has passed billions of dollars in unfunded mandates for the counties. On the other hand, they said the counties can't raise their taxes more than a fraction. How do we get the legislature to quit sending unfunded mandates out?
I, for one, understand the effect of an unfunded mandate. I think if it's something that the legislature puts into law as a requirement, it should be funded. It should be funded. So hold me to that. Secondly, when we have these balances, as much of that balances as possible should go back to the rightful owners, and that's the taxpayer. And one of the most effective ways to do that is to property tax reform. And the biggest step we can do, because it's a big deal. I mean, yes, I don't like having to pay to own my home, pay rent. I don't like that either. But we can't just turn the light switch off. It's just not possible. But there's a way we can move towards that direction. Your biggest part of your tax bill is maintenance and operation of it. And M&O needs to be the M&O portion of the state. We increased it in the 86th significantly. But we need to continue to move that needle and increase it ever much more, even working to eliminate, to pay for it all. And if M&O is taken care of by the state, like I believe it should be, that was a significant step forward to alleviate your property tax bill. Yes, sir.
You talked about the sanctity of the Second Amendment.
Yes, sir.
I got a question about the First Amendment.
Yes, sir.
2 years ago, what we're doing right now went against the governor's orders, county judge's orders, and the city mayor's orders to not congregate more than 6 people in a room unless you can be 6 feet apart. Nothing, as far as I can see, has happened to the governor, our county judge, or our mayor to prevent them from doing that again.
I believe a bill was passed in the 87th which prohibited that from ever happening again. I believe that bill is law. Last session. I don't think so. We'll check. I believe it was, but please confirm it for me. If not, so I'm with you. This is the house of God. This is the house of worship. There was a lot of lessons learned during COVID. I didn't like being stuck in my house. When you have pandemics, generally in pandemics, you isolate the sick and keep the well doing what they're doing. So you have a predictable bell curve, according to the doctors that I know. That's why I learned this. This one, everyone got shut in, so there's no predictable bell curve. Nobody could predict it. But in the beginning, I'll just say in the beginning, because I knew these things firsthand, we'd be privy to it, was that because of the amount of people that were requiring to be intubated, that Texas did not have the capacity in our emergency rooms to handle even 5% of a $27 million population. So we would have overwhelmed that. If it would have been like the Spanish flu pandemic, we would have had people in tents, and that was a scenario we just didn't know. But the governor's emergency powers are something that is going to be looked at, and it should be always examined. It's healthy to examine statute in the 88th. But yet, I agree with you, sir. This is the house of God.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give him a hand. And Pete's going to be able to stay for just a short time afterwards because he's going to drive back. So you'll have to get your questions in quick, and I'll try to keep us moving. Next up, Ellen Troxclair is not unfamiliar to us as she campaigned here a lot, and a lot of us campaigned for her. And it's going to be, if everything goes right, she's going to be our state representative and representing us up there. Now, Ellen, if you go to her site, I thought I'm going to go give her a good. But basically, her background was she somehow found herself living in Austin. We've all escaped that, but so she got fed up with what was going on and stepped forward and ran for the city council and was the only conservative on the city council and got beat up pretty regularly there, but stood for the brand, so to speak, even though city elections are nonpartisan, but we all know they really are, right? And she says it says she's a mom. I know she's a wife too, but being a husband, I think wives are a husband. She has a husband, and that's important. That's what I'm trying to say there. Okay, good thing my wife's not here. I'm digging a hole here somewhere. But she's a mom, has kids. She's one of us, and so I won't take any more of her time. Let's welcome Ellen Troxclair.
Thanks, Bruce. All right, I'm going to hire Bruce to rewrite my bio. And it's just going to say she's a wife or something. Hi, guys. I'm so glad to be here with you. I have had a crazy week, but nothing just fills me more than, being in church, and fires me up more than being with people who are also in the trenches. Like y'all are fighting alongside me and doing your part to be here tonight. And Pete, future Senator Flores, I guess, I don't know, already Senator, future Senator. I think we're going to make a good team. He is so even keel and calm and thoughtful, and I'm just a firecracker and passionate, and sometimes you need both. And so I think we're going to I was sitting back there listening to him, and I'm like, man, that makes me so mad. I can't wait to get that mic and tell him how mad that makes me when he's talking about stuff. So I think we're going to make a good team. I'm going to put this book down because otherwise I'm going to hit myself in the face with it. All right, Sunday of this week, I was in Burnett County at the Burnett County picnic. I think you were there too. Yes. Okay. Monday, I had a meet and greet in Blanco, and then an evening event back in Travis County. Tuesday, what did I do Tuesday? I can't even remember. I was in Kendall County with the Kendall County Republican women, talking to them there. Wednesday, was that just yesterday? I spoke on a panel with Heidi Cruz and Angela Paxton down at TPPF about why parents need to be empowered and have more say in their child's education. Thank you. I'm going to come back to that. Then I jumped in the car, drove to Fort Worth to hear an oil and gas conference on why fossil fuels matter and what Texas needs to do to make sure that we can keep our lights on and that we're not dependent on Russia or Venezuela or another country to allow humans to flourish. So anyway, and then I drove straight from Fort Worth to here. So when I'm not in it, I'm reminded every day that just because I'm not here, I want you to know that I'm working for you. I'm working on your behalf. This district is 5 counties. I am doing my best to be in as many places at one time as possible. And also in the meantime, I'm doing my research because guess what? I hope to be serving come January. And I'm going to have to take a lot of votes on a lot of different things and represent you efficiently and effectively. And so I'm researching property taxes and having meetings about the border and what we can do and learning more about all these other things. So that's just a peek into my life of just because the hard-fought primary was over. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? The primaries are over. Wow, that was so brutal. It was so brutal. It was terrible. Even people in Austin, they're like, that's one of the dirtiest races I've ever seen. I'm like, I know. I can't believe I lived through it. But just because the primary is over doesn't mean that I'm not working and that I'm not continuing to fight, because actually now the fight has just now begun. I never wanted to fight with other Republicans. I want to fight the Democrats. I want to fight the leftists. I want to fight the socialists. I want to fight the people who are trying to indoctrinate my children. I want to fight the people who are trying to bury our American flag. I want to fight the people who are undermining everything that it means to be an American. See, I told you, got fired up back there, and I haven't even started on my notes. I want to be quick because I know you guys have a lot of questions, and I want to get the chance to get to those questions. But have y'all heard of Alex Epstein? Okay, good, because this is a man that you need to know, and I just heard him speak in Fort Worth, and there's a quote here from our Congressman Chip Roy. Y'all have heard from him, right? Okay, in this book, Alex champions a humanity-centric alternative to the anti-fossil fuel climate hysteria that is pervasive among today's elites. Policymakers across the political spectrum should heed his arguments and abandon the disastrous path we are on before it's too late. I could not agree more. I'm going to give this book. I got one for y'all, not for me. I'm going to give this one away. And Peter Thiel at the very top says, the climate debate ignores the reason we burn fossil fuels in the first place. Why are we burning fossil fuels? To turn our air conditioning on. Why are we turning our air conditioning on? Because it's too dang hot outside. It is the answer to the problem. They are not part of the problem. And I sat and listened to these small mom and pop oil and gas drillers and distributors, and they were talking about all kinds of stuff and using all kinds of acronyms that I did not know. But ESG, environmental, social, and government, and it's a term that you guys really need to know. Okay, good. I'm so glad, because I cannot believe they are sitting up there in Fort Worth, Texas, saying that they cannot get the funding that they need to get their drilling projects off the ground because all of the big lenders have blackballed them because their ESG scores are not high enough. So what this has translated to is basically woke leftism getting at destroying the oil and gas industry through cutting off their money, cutting off the ability to lend. Meanwhile, we have Germany and Europe who has, thrown all common sense out the window, gone all full on renewable. There are going to be people that freeze to death in Germany this winter. They are going to freeze to death because they don't have natural gas and they can't keep their people warm. And now they are dependent on where? Russia to get their energy. And meanwhile, we have Biden who is trying to stifle us as well. And it's just empowering China, empowering Venezuela, and I don't understand how we can wake up every day and allow this man to continue to drag our country into the ground. So, anyway, I was going to give this book away. Okay, so y'all should read it. Governor Perry said it was one of the best arguments or best books to read this year. So, my fun question, I always love to do a fun question when I do book giveaways. Y'all saw that DeSantis took a plane full of people to Martha's Vineyard, right? Okay. Hilarious. I mean, props to Governor Abbott to getting those buses out to all those other cities, but man, what an epic troll of DeSantis to take them to Martha's Vineyard. It is just great seeing their responses to their own policies. So, who has the best answer of where the next plane of illegal immigrants should go to make the Democrats wake up and realize their own failed policies? San That's Biden's beach house. You know what? I like Camp David. That's a good one. I'm going to go with Camp David. So here's this book for you. Sorry I didn't get it signed. I was in line to get it signed, and then I had to jump in the car and come back. All right. Going to move on to the next on my list, and I told you I'd be quick, and I have a feeling that I won't be. But property taxes, he already talked about. We have $27 billion. I mean, it's just an insane amount of money in our surplus right now, in addition to the $13 billion. What do I hear as a taxpayer when I hear those numbers? That's a lot of my money. That's a lot of my money that's just sloshing around in these, in these imaginary pots of gold somewhere. I want it back. I want it back. You want it back? Yes, we have great things that we need to continue to fund as the state, but y'all know that last session they passed a spending cap on themselves, meaning that the state budget can't grow more than population plus inflation. That means that all this money is going to need a good place to go because they're not, and we need to spend it on property tax relief. The fight is going to be, everyone's I don't want to say everyone. A lot of our state leaders are kind of on board with this now. They're seeing, okay, there's money. The question is, how much money is going to be spent on property tax relief? My vote would be the whole $27 billion, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. But I will tell you, okay, we'll do another guess. We're going to use this money to buy down, hopefully, the maintenance and operations, the school portion of our property taxes. Does anybody want to take a guess of how much the state liability, basically how much the state collects and spends every year in maintenance and operations property taxes that get redistributed to our schools? Good guess. It's $31 billion. So let's do the math. $27 billion surplus, $31 billion every year on maintenance and operations. We have enough money if we want to. We could close the gap and eliminate it tomorrow. We'd have to, of course, come up with a plan to make it sustainable and make sure that we can keep doing that in the future. But the money is there, and I'm not going to be happy if the answer is, oh, well, we're going to spend some, and that sum ends up being $2 billion, $4 billion, $6 billion. No. This is the time. It's your money. We got to get back to you. And this is not even counting the rainy day funds. So it's not like we're spending money that we need to hold on to for some rainy day. Okay, so property taxes, I've been meeting with TPPF. I've been meeting with other legislators who have carried similar bills in the past to figure out what is the best path forward and why, and what can we do to make sure that as much money as possible is spent on property tax relief. That ties into actually school choice. So y'all know that this was one of the biggest, not that we're rehashing the primary, but this is one of the biggest differences between my opponent and I. He was endorsed by the teachers unions, and I supported school choice. And unbeknownst to me, our race had kind of become this bellwether. The entire country, I was told later by some school choice activists, that the entire country of school choice activists was looking at our race to see, is it possible for a rural Republican to be elected who supports education freedom? And thank you guys for proving that you can. Thank you guys for proving that you can, because this has always been, or historically, it has been a Republican versus Democrat. But yet, it's sometimes the rural Republicans that have been the ones who have said, no, we don't need school choice because we're happy with our schools. That's great. I'm so glad that Fredericksburg has excellent schools and Bernie has excellent schools, and so many places in this district have excellent schools. But guess what? Your money is being taken by the state and redistributed to other school districts that are teaching them God knows what in their classrooms and being absolutely indoctrinated. And so it does matter to you. And the other reason that it matters is because we're not going to live in the wonderful bubble that we live in Gillespie County. Your kids are going to grow up. They're going to go to college. They're going to go to college with other kids that graduated from AISD schools or Houston schools. And so it is our moral imperative. It's like a selfish thing because it does matter to a lot of our kids, but also it's our moral imperative to make sure that these kids are not being thrown to the wolves because we just were too comfortable and we didn't care enough. And so, I think that's probably going to make me a little bit of a lightning rod because I have been very strong on that issue and I don't intend to back down from it. I think there's a right way to do it. I think I don't think vouchers are the answer. I think we could probably start with with making sure that kids in failing school districts have a way out. I mean, it's not a black and white issue. There's lots of things that we can talk about in it. But are you guys going to have my back if I go to the Capitol and I do what I said I was going to do on the campaign trail, which is fight to make sure that parents are empowered to make the best choices for their child's education? Yes. Thank you. I'm asking that in all my counties. Because every time I go to the Austin bubble, it's like, they're not going to support you if you do that. And I said, well, come on out. I'm going to ask them. So thank you for that reassurance. The last thing, I could talk about the border, but honestly, I'm so sick of hearing how bad the problem is at the border. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's getting worse. I'm ready for solutions. I don't care how many buses it takes or how many. The one thing that I definitely want to do is is mandate that the state is reporting how much we are spending on illegal immigration, on the services that are unreported. I don't even know if you can report that accurately, but we deserve to know because, again, it's our money. But I do want you to know how can you help? First of all, I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to get people out to vote. Please go vote. I know everybody in this room is going to go vote, but don't think, well, we live in such a red county or we live in such a red state. Everything's pretty much decided now. That was decided in the primary. I vote in the primary, but I don't vote in the general. Or the person that I like didn't win, so I'm just going to sit this race out. We need you statewide. I'm going to just tell you two small things. I had a supporter in Travis County call me and say, Ellen, I supported you. I voted for you. I hosted an event for you. I donated to your campaign. But I'm pro-choice, and I'm so upset about the Supreme Court abortion decision that I'm going to vote Democrat for the first time in my life. And Of course, I spent 20 minutes on the phone with her talking about all of the other things that we do agree on, that the economy and immigration, all the things that we just talked about. And come on, come on, there's other things at stake. So just know that your vote here in Gillespie County counts just as much. There are a lot of other people in a lot of other suburban areas or urban areas that don't think the same way that you do. They don't think the same way that we do. And so your vote really, really matters. And I'm praying and hoping that issue, that we can get to those women and help them understand that a culture of life matters, and that what we should be focusing on is supporting women and supporting babies and making sure that we're reducing infant mortality and mother mortality, and that we have services available for moms who are dealing with postpartum depression and all these other things, that all these other reasons that people have abortions in the first place, that we are going to be there for them and they're not going to go through this alone, and we're going to step up. What else did I write? Oh, y'all know I have an opponent, a Democrat opponent. And again, it's easy to say, oh, well, this is a really I've heard it so many times. Well, this is a really Republican district. You'll be fine. Beto O'Rourke is going to spend an unprecedented amount of money to try to turn Texas blue. That is going to filter down into some of these lower ballot races. I have a target on my back. This is a race that they think that they can flip. Y'all know, didn't he have a rally in Fredericksburg? Okay, they are going all out. They are leaving no stone unturned. I had a debate with my opponent, and the first question from her side of the table was, so inappropriate. I had a Chamber of Commerce event, okay? Well, you have daughters, right? Well, when your daughter's 12 and she's raped, are you going to raise the baby? Wow. This is the kind, and then the next question was the border. Well, isn't it inhumane to build a border wall? And you know what I said? I turned to the room, which I guess it was a chamber event, so it had Republicans and Democrats, so it was a mixed group. And I said, who in this crowd, who here supports human trafficking? Anybody? No? Okay, well, great. That's what the wall is stopping, human trafficking. So if you don't believe in human trafficking, then you believe in securing our border, because that's all that we're empowering here. So anyway, so I just want you to know that there is a real race still happening. You can help me by, of course, grabbing the yard sign, signing up for the email list, donating a little bit of money if you're able. Surrogate speaking, I can't be in the five counties all at once. So if you're like, Ellen, I am on your team, I'm on board, I've heard you speak a lot, I want to be able to stand up at a meeting and say, hey, I'm here on behalf of the Ellen Troxclair campaign. You know, wear a button, wear a hat, talk to me if you have any questions about her. Just that presence to know that I am learning and listening and continuing to do everything I can to make sure that I'm hitting the ground running for you guys on day one. I think that's the end of my list, and I'm sorry I didn't end on a high note, but I'm grateful for you guys. I'm so grateful. I love Fredericksburg so much. Thank you to so many of you in this room who put up with that terrible primary and hung in there with me till the end. And if, again, just like he said, if I didn't earn your vote the first time, give me a chance to earn it this time around, and I promise I will make you proud. Thank you.
One question. Bruce has a really good question.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I don't know who I'm calling on. Okay, I'm going to go to you. Yes.
When you're elected, what are your legislative priorities?
Reduce property taxes, empower parents with some kind of school choice, secure the border, do whatever I can to help on that front. I think we're on the right track already on pro-life. If there's more to do there, I will step up. Well, I mean, supporting moms and babies, I think, is a good one. But those are the things that I'm really focused on, doing right now. Yep. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I've gone with all my grandchildren's games, and we have the worst gym. We're getting a new middle school finally. But because all our money went to other districts that
Yep.
played basketball in those glorious gyms in Lampasas and everywhere else. And something's got to be done about this ridiculous problem.
So if we use, and that's a very important point that I did not close the loop on, if we use that surplus to buy down, to shift maintenance and operations and get rid of that, that's where Robin Hood comes from. So by doing that and shifting that burden to the state and paying for schools with our surplus instead of with a local property tax assessment, we get rid of Robin Hood. We fully fund public schools. We get rid of Robin Hood. We don't raise any other taxes, and honestly, we probably have more accountability of what is going on in our schools. So that is a 100%. I'm still waiting to find a school district that's benefiting from Robin Hood, because it seems where I go, they're further and further in the hole. So absolutely, that's an added benefit of cutting our property taxes in half. Yep. Okay. Y'all know how to get a hold of me. I was going to be short so that I could answer so many more questions, but thank y'all. I'll stay. I'm going to take a break tomorrow. Yeah, there's
All right.
some signs back there.
I was going to say, there are signs from the different people here tonight, so make sure you get one before you leave. So George alluded to my question. I'm just going to throw it out there because you said we had great schools here. I'm a retired school teacher. I didn't teach here. I taught in KDISD near Houston. And if those 5 tests that you have to take in high school, if we had scores less than the 70s, those teachers got fired. The scores here in Fredericksburg are in the 30s. And the superintendent Rodriguez, I said, you're between a rock and a hard place. The brand new teacher in KDISD with no experience makes $60,700. You have to work 22 years in Fredericksburg to make $60,700. So if you're a really good teacher, where do you think they're going to go to work? They're going to go to the big districts. They're not going to come here. You're going to get last choice if you get a choice. And so listen, I could get a whole thing about education. It's my deal, and I will be talking to you two about it as we go on. I'll stop now because we have other people. Next up, our current county treasurer, who just took over recently after she won the primary. The current county treasurer said, listen, I'm going to let you have it early. And so she does have an opponent, a write-in opponent. And so Dana Smith is here this evening just to tell you a little bit more about her and encourage you to don't forget her going down the ballot for the Gillespie County treasurer. again, an Aggie, another Aggie younger than me. What can I say? So welcome, Dana.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I know some of you guys were here last time. I'm going to quickly introduce myself again, though, for the ones that weren't here. My name is Dana Smith. I grew up in Brenham, Texas. I went to Blinn College, and then I transferred to A&M. I was about 20 years old, trying to figure out what degree I wanted to do. I'm one of those kids that didn't quite know. Nothing sounded real fun, you know, and I thought, well, CPA, I don't want to do the same thing over and over. So I did end up getting a human resource degree. So fast forward through that, it was a new degree that they had, and so I'm like, well, okay, that sounds interesting. Well, in small towns, especially at that time, there wasn't a lot of just HR jobs available, or you had to know somebody to get into HR at a certain company. So I ended up doing more office manager type work, which led to bookkeeping, financials, accounting, and I realized I liked that. And I'm like, well, here we are. HR degree, but my interest is in accounting. So we ended up moving to Fredericksburg in 2015, my husband and my daughter. She was very young then. It was torture trying to move a year and a half old. But here we are. We made it. She's 9 now. I started with the city of Fredericksburg. I worked in the finance department as the city accountant there, and then eventually it was the senior city accountant. I enjoyed that work. I enjoy the problem of, here's the number you should have, here's where you're at, and then you can figure it out. People are sometimes a little harder to figure out, and so that's where the HR. So I did leave the city because the county had posted an HR director job, and I'm like, well, maybe this is it. Took me 15 years, but here we are. And so I did apply for the HR job at the county. I started with the county in 2019, and then I worked very close with the treasurer's office at that time because I would have employees I'd have to put in the system. I'd work with them on making sure the payroll was right and so on and so forth, and I realized I enjoy that job. When Kelly, the treasurer at the time, decided that she was gonna hang in there and, like Bruce said, and see how the primary went, and then she decided to retire, and so I was appointed July 1st as the treasurer. At that time, I had no opponent, but a write-in candidate the beginning of August signed up. So I was a little behind on the campaign trail when I found out. So here I am. I do want to say I think this club is a great thing. I think it is really good to be around people that feel the same way and can help you. There's a lot of teamwork that I think is hard to find, and so I am glad that I found the club, and I think having a candidate helped me find you. So that, again, you follow these paths that sometimes they work out. So here I am. I don't know, even me, I don't know if a lot of people understand fully what the treasurer's office does, so I thought it might be good to just explain. We balance all the money that comes in. My office receipts in. Each department, they turn in their funds, whatever they receive for the day. We balance it, put it into the system, and then monthly I reconcile the bank statements and make sure what was turned in matches what the bank shows, let the departments know if there is an issue. That's one big portion. There's also quarterly reports related to court fees, and I have to balance everything, and I love it. I'm one of those. So there's a lot of balancing, but there's also investments. My office does investing with your money to make more money for the county to hopefully offset things that are needed. So it's important to do safe investments, things that will make money but also not lose money. There's also we work with the auditor's office in paying bills. So they enter the bills, we verify that that's what it is, we print the checks and we send them out. It's kind of a checks and balances. So that's really a very quick nutshell. I fix things that I find. It's called journal entries. But we control the money. We make sure everything's there, and we reconcile and make sure there's no issues. So just a quick rundown. I do bring, again, over 13 years of experience with that. Pretty much every job I've had is I've done payroll, I've done journal entries, I reconcile, I figure out where things need to go. I've worked 7 years with local government, with the budgeting process, payroll again, financials. So I do bring experience to it, and I do enjoy the work, which I think is important when you're doing something like that. So as far as, again, I'm a little late to the campaign trail, so I do have signs, I have contact information. I believe in making myself available to you as the public. You're welcome to come to the office, ask questions. If there's things you're not sure of, I had somebody come in and just trying to understand local government, because it is kind of complicated when you have all these elected officials. How does it all work? So ask me, I'm here to help. I believe in transparency with the office. We post things online on the website, and I want to continue that, and I want to see if I can add to it. So any feedback would be great too. I have signs. If there's any way you want to help, let me know. Get the word out. I appreciate it. The best thing you can do is I respectfully ask for your vote. There is a write-in, so it is important you bubble in by my name and make sure that I do get the vote. Again, I won't take too long. I don't know if there's any questions for me, or if I kind of covered everything. Oh yes.
So, how important is it to have this experience, compared to your write-in
Yes.
candidate? I mean,
It's important. You have to know how to record revenues. I mean, that's a negative. It's recorded as a negative, but it's actually a revenue. So you have to know how to record things. Somebody who walks in the office and has no experience is going to have troubles. I mean, I was very fortunate. Kelly, the Commissioner's Court, agreed to move me up near her office. I was still doing HR, but she helped me. She trained me. So I have that help. Not a lot of elected officials get that necessarily. They walk into the job and they've got to figure it out. So not only do I have experience, but I have experience in the office, and I can build from it. Yes, ma'am.
This is a testimonial to everybody. I have been going to Commissioner's Court for months. I see how she operates, and I cannot say enough about how hard this woman works. So
Thank you.
I just wanted to give her a plug because I see what she does.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Thank you.
If any of you are interested in volunteering for any of these campaigns, I guarantee they have a place for you, doing something. Maybe it's sending out putting stamps on something, who knows? They'll have something that you could help them do. Our fourth person, last one up this evening, is especially for those of you who live in Commissioner Precinct 4, our Justice of the Peace candidate, Todd Metzger. Todd's background has been as a county deputy sheriff, and he decided to step out there and run for office as Justice of the Peace. So he's coming here this evening. This is a new thing for him, and he didn't know if you people were good or not. I said, listen, you're just talking to your friends out here. You're just one of the group, and thanks for stepping out there and running for office.
Thank you, sir. How's everybody doing this evening? I know y'all have listened to a lot of speakers and everything else, and I know we got to get through some things, but I do appreciate y'all coming out. It shows that you do support all of us, that you do care about our community. So with that being said, I am Todd Metzger. I'm running for Justice of Peace in Precinct 4. Just before I go through everything I'm going to go through, y'all need to realize that Justice of Peace doesn't just work in Precinct 4, because all the JPs take turns working the county. So the magistrate, during the month when it's their turn, they do death inquests. When it's their turn, they're on call for signing warrants or mental commitments. Just so I'm not working just for you Precinct 4. Y'all are my main ones, but I'm here for everybody in the county. So if anyone have questions, please let me know. So with that being said, like I said, I'm Todd Metzger. I'm born and raised here. I'm a sixth generation. My parents are Bob and Diane Metzger. Been here all my life, well, most of it. I'll explain that here in a minute. I married my wife, Melissa Metzger. We've been married for over 15 years. She teaches primary school, first grade here in Fredericksburg. I have a daughter that is 13, so y'all understand that. She's a wonderful girl, Shelby. She goes ahead and she's in 7th grade this year. And then I have a 6-year-old boy. And he goes to the primary school. He's in kindergarten. He's all over the place. So it's constantly going on. So with that being said, like I said, I was born and raised here. I went to St. Mary's School. After I graduated from St. Mary's here, I went to the Fredericksburg High School. And after graduating from Fredericksburg High School, I went to Blinn Junior College for 2 years. Came back to Fredericksburg, back to my roots. I don't know how many of y'all remember the old store, Todd Metzger's department store here in town. It was a family business that closed back in 2006, but I came back and started working for them. I did that until I got the call for the passion of deciding to work nights, weekends, holidays, and not being around anyone. So in 2002, that's when I left Fredericksburg. I left in the beginning of January. I went to Lubbock Police. I got hired on, went through their academy, and I got back here as fast as I could. December 26, Milton Young hired me full-time with the Sheriff's Department. So I was gone less than a year, and I came back here. So where I come into play, my background is law enforcement. I've been serving y'all for 20 years, and I want to go into a different field and still continue to serve y'all. With that being said, the reason my background as a peace officer is going to help me is I have a master peace officers. I have to take 80 hours a year to stay updated, or every 2 years I have to take 80 hours of classes, and I have to take the legislation updates. So that's going to help me as being your JP. Reason being is I know the laws. I'm going to stay current on the laws. Even as JP, you have to still take 80 hours every 2 years. So I'm going to keep up with those because it's important to know when you're in court what you're dealing with, okay? You're going to be magistrating people. Something very important, you know, if someone comes through here and they got a load of illegals coming through here, we want to hold them accountable, okay? If we got drugs coming through here, we want to hold them accountable. The first part of that is they get to bond out. But what I'm going to do as your judge, when I go into that magistration room to magistrate these people, I'm going to look, is this a violent crime or a nonviolent crime? How much of a risk is this guy going to be or this lady's going to be if she's released back into our public? Is she going to be a flight risk who's not going to come back and be held accountable, and then we're going to have to issue another warrant for failure to appear to get them back here? So things that need to be taken into consideration as JP, it's very important right there, I believe. Another thing that's very important is our youth. How many would y'all agree on our youth is our big, big priority? And the reason I say that is I was a school resource officer for over 10 years in Harper. Unfortunately, we got youth that does things wrong. They're going to come to our JP courts. The good thing about our JP courts, we hear misdemeanors only. So, with that being said, if you get a juvenile in there that's got possession of alcohol, possession of drug paraphernalia, maybe a speeding ticket, you have a chance to intervene in their lives and not just necessarily give them fines, but the courts have set up that you can give them programs to help themselves out. You can give them community service, or you can send them to a drug program or an alcohol program. So you got some resources there to help our kids, because if we can catch them before they get over 17, we got a better chance of keeping our youth, okay? I did this for a number of years in Harper. When I first started in Harper, I had one class with 4 students. Real important here. It's an elective. It's not a class that they have to take. It's not like science, social studies, math, where they have to be there. Within 2 years, I was having 2 classes a day with 15 or 20 kids. So what does that tell me? That I've made an input and got them interested in law enforcement and understanding. They want to know what was going on and how they could even help in our community. I did a lot of programs for even the little kids. You know, you got kids that, you know, my 6-year-old's at home with my 13-year-old sometimes. Something happens to my 13-year-old, my 6-year-old needs to know how to use a phone. So I've talked to those younger kids in those younger classes. We got kids that would get lost at school, and I walk up to them and go, "What's your mommy's name?" "Mommy." "Okay, this isn't going to help." I got lost as a kid in the store. And they asked me, what's your mom's name? Sugar. My dad called Mom Sugar all the time. So these kids got to start learning little things to help out, and that's one thing I like to do. Our school SROs do a great job right now, but I would love to get back in the school and work with those SROs. I know the administration, so I'm not going to have an issue with that. One of my best friends is Chris Ayala. He does a high school. He's on board with me doing this. Preston Schmidt is at our middle school, and the interesting thing about Preston Schmidt is I taught him 10 years ago. And now he stepped into the role that I used to do, which is really good, really something interesting. Bless you. So there's a lot we can do as a community for our youth. But also, unfortunately, there's things that I have to do that are not fun. We have to do inquests when people, unfortunately, pass away that are not attended by a doctor or by hospice. JPs have to go out and they investigate that with law enforcement, and they're the ones that sign the death certificate. Unfortunately, I've been doing this for 20 years, folks, but I understand the process, so it's not something I'm going to be stepping in and be lost on. I can work with law enforcement, and I know the importance of it. I know how hard it is for family members because I've sat there and talked through it, and it's hard, but I'm willing to do that and help these people out and get through it. Mental health is a huge problem in our community, even in our world. I've dealt with people with mental issues. I've gotten them the sources for the mental health employees or the people to talk to them, and I've seen the process of what the judges have to do to get them committed to get help. So there's a lot of things that JPs do. I'm more than happy to stand back and talk to you, answer any questions, But the main thing is we need to get out there and vote. I do have an opponent. I don't know if many people do know that, but I do have a Democrat running against me, so I really would appreciate y'all getting out there and voting for me. I am going to be committed to Gillespie County, not just to my precinct, but the whole county. I'm planning to stay here. I'm planning to fight for our youth and planning to fight for our future. Thank y'all very much.
Thanks so much. I just want to take 1 second to do a quick commercial. Last year, some of you may have attended in the Gillespie County Republican Party. We had a Lincoln Reagan dinner in February, and we'll be having another one this next February. So I just want you to save the date on your calendar. February 24th, out at the Edge, the resort at Fredericksburg, out at the Edge. February 24th, the Gillespie County Lincoln Reagan dinner. Details to follow, but put that on your calendar.
Okay, we're almost done. I wanted to mention one thing that I forgot before. Dennis McCandless is here. Dennis, would you? Yeah. And Dennis has been following the problem with the bad books in the school, along with the other people that you may know about. And you may have read the paper, and there's something kind of urgent. Next Tuesday, there's going to be another book event in Market Plots, and Dennis is the one to contact. We've got a sign up here in the back, but we'd like to get people looking at those books. It's not clear exactly how that event got approved through the city, to be done at Market Plots. We're going to be looking into criteria for that, but talk to Dennis. He's here, and this is the time when we were going to